So with just 2 days left before the IMF World Bank meetings end here in Washington, what are African representatives taking back to the continent?
Yeah, I think that the biggest lesson out of these meetings this week should be the fact that, at last we have a model that Africa and the rest of the world can look to in terms of managing public debt and basically how to get off debt traps. Jamaica, we learned earlier in the week from the Minister of Finance from Jamaica that they were able to reverse the situation that they had been in over 50 years. What did they do? They looked at laws. They came up with laws that were going to help them to ensure fiscal sound fiscal policies. They also put in place institutions and strengthened their institutional capacity. And they also did make decisions in a very transparent manner. So it wasn't like you don't know what is going on. And the last thing that the Minister of Finance from Jamaica said was that they were able to strictly follow through fiscal transparency strategies. So I think that should be the biggest takeaway for African countries as they leave. Are they able to do that? Can they be the next Jamaica?
Professor, that's very interesting to hear that Jamaica is a model, and hopefully they are all listening. But what are the two financial giants, IMF, World Bank, offering to do differently this time to help African countries deal with the debt crisis they are facing?
Yeah, I think what was very important out of the session on the first day session on debt with the president of the World Bank, he's mentioning and acknowledging that things could have been done differently. And I hope that that's a commitment that things are going to be done differently into the future. And what does this mean? DSAs, debt sustainability analysis reports. I think over the last few years, those have been issued pretty late. And if you issue vital information late, it becomes very difficult to deal with whatever that information is going to present. So what we have seen in the past is that countries find themselves that they're in the red alert. And what do? It's too late. So I think acknowledging that issuing debt sustainability analysis reports early is very crucial in the process of debt management. I think that is a plus, and it's something commendable from the World Bank and the IMF going forward.
Professor, the issue of climate change has been big in the continent and elsewhere in the world, but how can Africa manage, how has that climate change impacted Africa's ability to pay these debts, and also can ordinary citizens be included in these conversations?
Yeah, so the issue of climate change is a very, very sensitive topic, and I think we need to be very honest when we have this conversation. We need to look at who really is the reason why we are having the situation that we have now. So the UN Environment Program has issued a report, and they have said that Africa contributes only 2 to 3% to the global emissions. So who is responsible for climate change? That's a question that we need to ask. Definitely, it's not Africa, but we know that the impacts are being felt more by African countries, and things are only going to get worse. What we see happening now is that because of these disasters that are happening when we least expect for them to happen, our climatic surveillance systems are not even there. They're not quite there. Can we predict with certainty that this flood is going to cause so much havoc? We can't do that in Africa. So I think going forward, it's very, very important for us to work with these cooperating partners, all the countries that largely are responsible for climate change, to ensure that we build capacity in the countries that are most affected and are going to be most affected by climate change. Building capacity means training people to be able to respond when these crises occur. I've never heard of an institution in Africa, a university, that specifically focuses on teaching climate change. We have universities here that teach disaster management. In most of our programs, we teach disaster management. Can we be able to support countries in Africa to be able to teach citizens and develop a resource that can respond to this climate crisis as they unfold? But I think more importantly, it's engaging the people as well. We need to educate our people, because you wake up suddenly, you find there's water passing around. What do you do? So we need to be able to have in place at country level systems where people are trained and they know about disasters and how to prepare themselves for disasters going forward. If possible, leaving those areas that are very prone and those areas that are likely to experience flooding and drought.